Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. This is your host Josh Chapman speaking, and today we're in the home studio. We're on the Skype. It felt appropriate to get this chap on the blower today because football's coming home. It's coming home. I had to get some UK correspondence going. And, you know, we've had a few episodes in. We're nearly 20 episodes in, and we've had nothing but rank amateurs on this show. Relatives, friends, people, you know, people off the street. It was time to get an actual professional in. So we've got a man who's a podcaster. He's a writer. He's a journalist. He's out there fighting the good fight. Charlie Ashby, how are you?
You're right. What an intro.
What an intro.
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
You're all right? How's
I'm fine.
Britain?
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How is England the morning after? Some sore heads. You haven't actually won the World Cup, but you've won a penalty shootout. It won't be football talk all the time, but it must be addressed. A big night for Britain. England.
It was. If you've seen my Twitter account, you know how angry I was yesterday. It was good to prove that I am not dead. Like, if there was any sort of, if I was like scared that I had passed away and to get me introduced into heaven, they put me in this weird World Cup situation. The fact that my heart nearly, you know, went crazy last night proves that I'm not dead. So that was good.
You can still feel.
Oh yeah, my head was killing me last night, but you know what? It was worth it.
And I always forget, you know, how young you are. You're still a young man. You know, you probably haven't lived through the decades of pain that a lot of other England fans have. And even, you know, when I lived in England from about 05 till when was it? 2013, 2000. Yeah. So there was a few tournaments of failure in there that even I endured. You know, as a resident, and I am actually a British citizen, so England is definitely my second team. But it is amazing the collective psyche of England fans, of the downtrodden and the sort of acceptance of failure. Given the optimism now, it's a completely different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, like you're saying, obviously I'm quite young, but I remember I was 7 years old. Had to go into school. We all went into school early. So this is how important football in the World Cup is. We actually went into school earlier just to watch the Brazil match. It was 2002. And
the Ronaldinho goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So imagine having to watch that game. We're out. We're kicked out. And we're at school early, so we have to prepare for the school day. What a horrible, torturous way to start.
And now England's out of the World Cup, and now everybody, it's time for maths.
Yeah, it's like torture. Yeah, yeah. And then, like you said, 2005. Anything after that, we're just shite, to be honest. So
yeah, it's amazing, really, and it's the psyche, and I've just sort of watched from afar, and I still follow the British media quite closely and listening to the podcast and things, and it is amazing how they, you know, whatever happens now, it's sort of released the shackles a little bit and things. It's quite interesting. It's good for the country, and it's good to see them. I always sort of followed England. A lot of Australians sort of did by default, given our colonial past, I think. But I do have a very personal hooray. Well, you know, we never really progress, but I do. It does have a special place in my heart, England, and I have seen England play a few times at Wembley and Old Trafford and places. So I would follow it very closely with my English friends. My good friend Patrick was sending me videos. We were sort of chatting. I was up at 4 a.m. watching the match, and he was out with some of our friends from Britain. And one of his mates can't watch any time that there's a penalty or anything. So he had video of him standing in the doorway, just staring in the laneway of the pub, waiting to hear what happened, basically. And then he just turns around and is like, ah!
Yeah, that sums it up. That's the pure terror and joy of the penalty shootout.
One World Cup shootout, he hid under a table at a friend's house, you know, while it was going on because he couldn't watch. So I think it's only going to get worse as they actually progress. But we're not here to talk football. not completely. This is a Star Wars podcast, and Charlie, anybody who knows you or even doesn't know you, would know or should know that you're a very active Star Wars fan. You do a lot of writing about it. You have your own fantastic podcast as well. You're very active on the socials and things. And I'm just going to pose the question to you that I sort of pose most people at the start. This is, how are you feeling about Star Wars?
That's an interesting question. Because you got Star Wars, just like the franchise itself, and then you got Star Wars as our lifestyle, which is such a lame thing to say. But
well, that's the thing. Like some of the people I've had just a lot of the people that come onto the podcast, I kind of just get who are casual. They dip in, they dip out. Some people more than other, but it's funny that you say Star Wars is a lifestyle. Because you are a very dedicated, follower of fashion, as they say.
Yeah, I feel like I was actually thinking about this the other day. Yeah, like does being a Star Wars podcaster and talking about it 24/7 and just making jokes and just constantly being involved, does that ruin my expectations, or does that ruin my enjoyment of the franchise? Because obviously a lot of community stuff's been going recently, a lot of negativity. Yep. But actually, because I was thinking, you know what, I think maybe it might. But then later on that day, I watched the clip of Empire, and it just gave me the goosebumps. I was like, nah, it's fine. Like nothing I don't think ever will affect it to that extent.
Yeah, when you brush aside, I mean, it's hard to brush aside these things sometimes when they get to you, but when you come back to what it actually is and what you enjoy about it and what you see about it, it does change your perspective, doesn't it? Or flick you back onto your perspective or give you perspective.
Yeah, like a lot of people make like you see so many memes of the Phala Siren scene. And I watched The Last Jedi for the first time in a while the other day, and it was just like watching it all over again. I just love that silly little scene. It's just pure Star Wars, and you don't really get affected by all the sort of negativity that's been pushed on it because you just don't want to think about it. You're drawn into the story, and I think that's a good structure of a good film. If it draws you in and kicks out any thought in your mind, there's always the small bits, like you can't not watch A New Hope and not focus on that stormtrooper hitting his head. It's impossible now.
But I mean that's part of the charm as well. And the and the lore and things as well. I mean, do you think that we had so much space between the movies before, and now we're getting stuff so quickly? Do you think it's a lot of that stuff will slip through the cracks and things? All the little moments and stuff because we just get more and more of these things. They keep churning out.
I don't know, because I think I was saying this the other day as well. Like, there's some bits that I haven't even noticed in the old films. Like, you watch them so many times, you know every single word, but you don't notice these small little details. I think it was Nikki, my co-host, the other day, who only mentioned to me that I think there's someone's arm was on the floor in Solo, and I completely missed it. And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" He's like, "No, yeah."
Oh, like someone's arm got pulled off.
Yeah, I can't remember what exact scene it was, but apparently there was an arm detached at some point in that film.
There's a moment where when they're in the, because when we did the when I did the reaction pod with Catherine and Andy when we saw Solo, because we all saw it together. There's the scene where Han and Chewie are in the spice mines, and Chewie rips the arms off the guard, and Han goes, "Oh, I could have used that, or I could have wore those." I thought that he was going to wear that armless jacket, and that was going to be the vest. So the next shot he'd come out, and he'd be wearing a Han vest, effectively, because Chewie had pulled the arms. But it didn't happen. I was like, come on, you've done he gets his blaster and everything else. Like, surely that wouldn't. Is that too on the nose? Like,
it may have been a little bit on the nose, but I like that idea. I never thought of that, but that's a cool idea to sort of push it in. But probably Han just spent some of that leftover Falcon money at Space Gap.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I like the idea that maybe Lando left some of his clothes there, and Han was just there with a sewing machine or something, altering them and, making them into stuff that he would wear. That, all these vests and things are actually made out of Lando's capes and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, but John Kasdan actually replied to me on Twitter to confirm that Lando still has his capes. He took them off the ship So,
In a
but
huff.
but he doesn't discount the fact that Lando may have had the vest first. So, that's up in the air still.
Ah, that's nice. That's nice. It was funny. I put a tweet out today because I was reading the latest Lando comic. I'm just gonna read my phone up. What is it? The double shot? No, Double or Nothing. And
Yeah.
and I took a photo because I was just reading it, and this is exactly what Lando says in the comic. I'm just going to read it to you. I don't know if you've read the comic or not. Just pretend you haven't. If you haven't heard it, Charlie, you act surprised. He's talking to one of the character. Basically, he gets hired to do a job, and the lady, he's arguing about landing on the part of this job, and she says to him, "Do you realize I'm thinking? Do you realize I'm thinking right? It might look like I'm just organically gifted in the realm of strategy, which I am, but I'm deep in thought." And she goes, "If we don't power up, we'll crash into the surface." And then Lando says, "Your lack of chill is deplorable. Freak my vibe and coast while we glide." Now, does that sound like they're giving Lando a little bit too much jive talking?
I don't even know what he just said. Say it again.
So literally, Lando says this, he goes, "Your lack of chill is deplorable. Freak my vibe and coast while we glide."
Is he high?
It sounds like he's like in some sort of like blaxploitation film or something like that. And I always of felt that was the danger with doing a young Lando, is that they kind of play to the fan stereotype of, Lando's a pimp, he's a Mac Daddy, he's a rocking the platform boots, and he's got ladies in every, I mean, it's sort of misdirected what his charm is, I suppose.
Yeah. Like I feel like Billy D's charm was just pure charm, as opposed to
he's only actually charming
color of his skin or anything like that.
Yeah. And I had this discussion with someone the other day, and if you actually watch Empire Strikes Back, he's actually charming in about 2 scenes, and the rest of the time he's either sold his mates out and he's a bit downtrodden, or he's, being bossed around. And then in Return of the Jedi, he's not particularly charming. He's certainly friendly, he helps out and things, or he's on the missions. He's not particularly smooth for that long. He's smooth in maybe the first time he sees Leia, and then a little bit, when he tells her how good looking she is, and that's about it.
I mean, but he's very good at it, though.
He is very good. Well, that's the balance. You don't want to lose that, but, freak my jive and whatever it is, your lack of chill is deplorable. Freak my vibe and coast while we glide. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I might have to write a letter to Marvel.
Dear Marvel.
Dear Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
This is the right person, right?
Dear Stanley, I disagree with how you write Lando.
There's that Simpsons episode where Homer, they're talking about the letters that Homer writes to movies. Dear Die Hard, you rock.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, complaining about any detail or
Yeah. And then again, I could just forget about it and get on with it, really. When you're talking about the details, finding more details in the original movies, well, because I saw Jedi in the cinema when I was very young, and then, until the special editions came out, I only ever saw them on VHS or on television. And then even when I bought the special editions on VHS the first time, it was all 4:3 aspect ratio. So it wasn't until I bought them on DVD that I actually saw, what was happening outside of that frame. I never saw them on widescreen regularly. So I saw, it was like a whole new film, because you just got these extra bits either side that you never even knew that were there. So it was quite amazing, all the new details that you would pick up.
Yeah, like even just, and because there's the mixture of basically seeing things you never saw before, and then each new release had more new details. So you were diving into that.
I thought you said nudie tales then. I'm going, I don't know.
Yeah, there was nude. If you look in Jabba's palace, there's a nudie tail lady. No.
Boba Fett, hits her up because he's awesome, and
yeah, he's hitting people's chins, and
yeah.
Like I still get so frustrated at the aerial. the reflected shot. It's like, George,
Which one's
no,
that?
don't do that. In Jabba's palace, he's Ariel is on the other side. There's a scene where,
Ah, is that when
yeah, if you,
is the original cut?
I think it's, I think it might be. I'm not
Is
entirely
that
sure.
when
I
he's
think it,
sort of pulling his blaster out when the thermal detonator comes out? Is that sort of the
yeah,
selling Chewie scene?
I think it might be that scene. Yeah, like when he pulls the blaster up because everyone's panicking. Um, yeah, but yeah, it's on the wrong side, and it's like, oh,
That's not a
George.
special edition change. Of all the things to change, you think you could fix that pretty easily.
Yeah, it just seemed like a weird thing to get. I don't know. It must be. I don't know. It's like everyone hates the scene where in Empire where the special edition cut, by the way, where
Mm.
Vader says, "Get my shuttle prepared for light," and you actually see the shuttle Tidarium because I love that ship so much. I don't mind it being an Empire,
Yeah.
um, but it's the fact that it's clearly a cut scene from Jedi. You can see Jar Jarrod on the Star
When he
Destroyer.
lands into the Death Star, basically.
And and I love it so much because like people say, "Oh, that's frustrating. That's a continuity error." I love it because it means that in Empire, Jar Jarrod is on Vader's Star Destroyer, and then when he goes off to meet him in the beginning of Jedi, he's like, "Why haven't you built the Death Star yet? what have you
He's
been
been
doing?"
promoted.
He's like,
He's like, what are you doing? Last time I
he's like,
left
"I was
you,
with
you were
you like
here.
5 minutes ago."
What's the official continuity on the second Death Star? When did they actually start? Do they start pretty much straight after the last one? Or is it completely, does a bit addressed now because it's all old canon?
I think it was pretty much after the first one blew up. Like they were like, "Okay, damn it, we've got to build another one.
I
Don't
know
tell
that like
anyone."
in the books and things originally there were prototypes and all sorts of nonsense flying around and things, and then I think they were saying that the first one took 20 years to build, but once they kind of nailed out the kinks, they could knock another one out pretty quick. The first Tesla took a while, but now they just churn them out. So
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. Yeah, like I think the reason why the first Death Star took so long wasn't really the building of the actual framework. It was the getting the super laser to work.
yeah,
So
because otherwise you've just got a big floating white elephant, haven't you? Really?
exactly. Um, but yeah, so it's those small little things I sort of love seeing, and George playing with the audience a bit, messing around. Never really
Do
bothered
you
me
think
too
he?
much. I mean,
Do you think he? Oh, sorry, you go.
no, you go.
I was just going to say, do you think it's him? Do you think he actually does mess around, or do you think it's oversight, or do you think it's necessity? And like, I don't think, like, I think prequel era George, there was definite messing around because he basically had the tools to do whatever he wants, and you can sort of see on the documentaries, like, oh, that people will think that's funny, and he'll kind of, I'll put that in and there, but. I feel like the original ones are a bit more sort of haphazard, and the funny things just sort of came out of analog filmmaking, I suppose.
I think maybe. I think it's like any creator. It's you go back and you look at what you've done and you see things you want to change. And he had the opportunity to do it, so he did it. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that. Um, I have like I agree that there should be the original cuts shown. I don't think we should consider them the de facto cuts because clearly George has said otherwise, and it's his film,
Yeah.
so who cares? And do you know what? Like, I don't. It doesn't really bother me too much. There's some bits in the special editions that I think work better and work better contextually.
Well,
Like,
The Death Star run is much better.
absolutely. And I know people don't like it, but I prefer Hayden as Anakin because I think thematically it works more.
Yeah,
It works better.
I don't really mind either way. Really, it's just sort of yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember sort of being like, oh, that's a bit weird at the time, I suppose, but. It's one of those ones that I've sort of come to accept it. I don't sort of begrudgingly hold out and refuse to acknowledge stuff. I just sort of go along with it. Really. I mean, it'd be nice to see Hayden come back in episode 9. It's funny. He sort of. I haven't heard anything from him from years, and then he popped up in that getting back to football into the charity football game, and then I saw a poster for a film that he's in, and he must sort of just be poking his head out again because I think he sort of semi-retired for a while.
Yeah, I know. I think he's had like a few roles here and there, like not too public, but it seems like he's got a few films out last year for the first time, and he's such a nice dude. Um, like you can tell when someone's being earnest. Sometimes you go to
Yep.
these cons and people are just there for the money, but he was a really nice dude. And it just felt so good to tell him how much it meant for me growing up.
Yep.
Um, especially when he like I can now say I made Darth Vader laugh. Not many people can say that. Like,
Is he quite physically? Is he quite big physically, or is he like? Is he
well,
just
I'm
sort
kind
of
of small,
right? So everybody's big.
so yeah. Well, I think he was fairly tall, not
Yeah,
too tall, but like he had to
but he's not. He's not. I mean, he
bend down a
doesn't
little
look
bit.
like a
I'm not
hulking
too tall
massive
either,
a
but
guy, but yeah, because he certainly wasn't a
no, but
hulking massive a guy. But
he was kind of like you can tell what George was going for. Like I know he was going for the sort of James Dean in space, and you can see it. Like he's a handsome fella.
yep.
Um, let's just say, I don't blame Padme. Um, yeah, like
The younger
it was just
man.
really, yeah. But he was like really nice. I told him basically, I'm trying to remember exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, just to let you know that growing up, you were my favorite hero. And he was like, "Oh, thank you." And I went, "And villain." I laughed him. Because we both, I imagine that in that moment, we both imagined him killing younglings and laughing about it. Because
Yeah.
we're evil. Yeah, I remember that scene so vividly. And
I
yeah,
remember. Yeah, it's quite shocking.
I was a weird child. Like, I was like, yay, he's evil. But yeah, like it felt so cool, like seeing him there and everything. So, and that's why,
It's
like I said, I want him in episode 9 because I feel like it just makes sense thematically. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, it's just
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Force Ghost is the most obvious way to sort of bring him in. Well, the obvious and the only way, really. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it would be great. I think it would be great if they did, and it would be great if we didn't know. Um, I mean, it's hard to keep lids on these things and stuff, but I think it is good that he has embraced the culture, and especially the stuff that sort of came out today about Ahmed Best, where he sort of talked about how the people ragging on him for the last 20 years, really affected him, and he came out the other end, and Hayden had a rough time of it as well. I mean, he probably went on to, he went on and starred to some movies and things, but I'm sure the criticism gets to you as well, especially when you go into something like being in Star Wars with nothing but nothing but optimism and the biggest thing that's ever happened to you in your life, and it'd be hard to not have a bitter taste in your mouth for a while, given the way that some people would treat you.
yeah, like I was a kid growing up with the prequel, so Jar Jar Binks. I've always loved Jar Jar Binks. I never understood the hate, um, and it really does bother me. Like, it really does upset me even thinking about what he wrote yesterday, because it doesn't take a genius to work out how much of a mental toll that has when
Yeah.
millions of people around the world are saying you ruined my childhood, you were scum of the earth. And if you think about if you just think about the technical details, like how much his work and George's work helped create CGI characters, you wouldn't have Gollum all that lot without Jar Jar.
Yeah, exactly. It was a groundbreaking, it was a groundbreaking character in a lot of senses, but also it was, the character itself was the thing that kind of rubbed people up the wrong way as well. And it's I suppose that he became he almost was a symbol of all the things that people had problems with the films, whether they were too kiddie or silly or computery. I mean, he was all those sort of things wrapped up in a neat little bow that you could kind of just poke fun at quite easily, and it would sort of sum up the criticism quite neatly.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a shame, and I think that's a sort of a thing of it. I would say it's a thing of its time, but it's clearly not, because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not all Star Wars fans," and it's true. A lot of them are just people that watch Star Wars who want to get involved. And there's something to be said about the fact that we're saying, "Oh, Ahmed, we love you," but at the same time, there's a huge amount of people attacking Daisy Ridley, Kelly Marie Tran, John Boyega for the exact same reasons. So I feel like we need to learn from those lessons. I mean, look at I know you mentioned Hayden, but Jake Lloyd.
Yeah, poor Jake Lloyd.
Like I can't even imagine what he like. I thought he did amazing, like in that film. Like, what do you expect? He's like a 10-year-old kid, right?
There's a fantastic bit of I remember seeing it when I saw Phantom Menace the first or second time, and there's a moment in it where I was like, wow, he really nailed that line. There's a bit where they're in the the house, they're in they're around the table and stuff, and Qui-Gon says, "Oh, I didn't actually come here to free slaves," and Anakin just turns and goes, "I think you have. Like, why else would you be here?" Like that. I remember going, "Wow, he really nailed that. Like, he really nailed that line. Like, he really showed some, especially for a 10-year-old kid as well." I remember looking at it going, "Oh, wow, he really sold that." I remember sitting with a friend of mine because I saw Phantom Menace quite a lot. I think I saw Phantom Menace about 8 times in the cinema, actually, quite a lot of times. And going with a friend of mine, and I remember the scene where he leaves his mother, and she started bawling her eyes out. And I'm going, well, you know what? He's selling it right there. If she's touched emotionally by that, let it roll. And
I'm the biggest emotional wimp. Like emotional scenes, if they're done well, they really get to me. And that scene where he says goodbye to his mum is just heartbreaking. And that's like you said, that's one of the best. Like, because he does. Everyone keeps complaining that he says stuff like "yippee" or "that's wizard." Like don't act like you weren't like that when you were a child. Don't lie. It's such, ridiculousness. Of course you had fun and ran around. He was a slave boy. Like, you gonna complain that he's having fun?
He had a pretty.
He's owned by someone.
He had a pretty. Considering he was owned by someone and was a slave, he had a pretty sweet digs. He had a fair bit of freedom for a guy who was a slave. He wasn't. He got to have his own bedroom. He got to live with his mum. He got to, tinker with his droids, fly pods. He wasn't as sort of downtrodden as he could have been. I suppose, it might have been a little bit too much to show if he was having a really rough time of it. But
well, yeah, you got to give him something. And it was and it was those scenes where, like you said, he talks to Qui-Gon about the Force, and he talks to his mum and saying goodbye. That's the scenes where it shows you how powerful those moments can be. And it's the small stuff. It's the same thing with Rey, and it's the same thing with Luke about him blowing up the Trade Federation ship.
Yep.
It's like, it's to prove that he's powerful, like to prove the point. 2, it's funny. The idea that he just accidentally presses the button. He's like, oh, okay, like, we're going off. Just deal with it. Like, it's funny. I love it. Like, it always makes me laugh, and it's a nice little contrast to the seriousness of the trench run.
Yeah. Well, I remember George. Yeah, the tension it's different, isn't it? It's I was gonna say, I remember George Lucas saying that he sort of purposely made Anakin younger because he wanted the impact of leaving his mother to be to be more impactful because he was younger, and if he'd been the same age as Padme and a teenager, it probably would have bothered him, but he probably would have been more keen to leave.
Yeah, and I think retrospectively, if you look at Anakin's character, that's a hole he could never really fill, or at least he tried to. I feel like him leaving his mum at an early age explains a lot of his relationship with Padme, because she ends up mothering him quite a lot. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why he doesn't want her to go. Like, he truly, like, he couldn't lose that other sort of, and it's hard. I think what he does with the Clone Wars as well, which makes it more heartbreaking, is that he actually, I think, like, he gets to the point where he has everything. He has like a friend he could rely on with Ahsoka. and shows you how good of a parent he could have been. And also, you see him with Padme, and he has problems there still. Like, he's not perfect because he's, he murdered the whole village. So he's not clearly the most stable boyfriend.
And they effectively have a long distance relationship as well. So
yeah, but I feel like they're in a better place there than when Palpatine starts breaking it all apart piece by piece.
Yeah, that's right. That one really asks where he goes at night, though. Like, in Revenge of the Sith, he's sort of, they're cohabitating. There's a scene where he's sort of, having his nightmare, and Padme is just lying in bed next to him, and, he's clearly, got her pregnant and things. But it seems like nobody's asking any questions of where he's going at night. I know that he's sort of, it's implied that Obi-Wan kind of knows what's going on, and he's, keeping it to himself, or he, obviously at the end when, Padme's pregnant, he says that Anakin's the father and things. But you think for an organization that keeps quite close tabs on everybody, that he's just, I kind of assume they all lived at the temple in little bunks and stuff.
I feel like everyone kind of knew. Like, I feel like the characters that definitely knew were Obi-Wan 100%. And I feel like that's why that gave me I found appreciation for Obi-Wan that I never really, I love Obi-Wan, but extra appreciation because, especially with the Satine arc, because he knows what Anakin's going through, and he isn't gonna sort of give him a lecture on what he should be doing because he's made his decision. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, it doesn't really bother him, I don't think, that much.
I think he probably also. Sorry to interrupt. I think he probably also knows that that's the like Anakin's already pretty volatile kind of guy. He's obviously very powerful. That to basically shine a light on that and put him in a position where he has to make a decision is not something that they probably want to indulge if they don't have to. It's probably easier to sort of turn a blind eye because, like, look, if it hits the fan and we put him on the spot and say you've got to choose or you're out. It's like, well, it's more dangerous, clearly, as it turns out, against us than with us.
Yeah, and I feel like him, Obi-Wan definitely knew. I feel like Yoda knew because, it's Yoda, and he kind of, he doesn't sound so surprised. It's not like in Revenge of the Sith, he's like, pregnant she was? Crazy this is. It doesn't go into that.
Crazy this is. How did this happen?
Yeah. See this I did not. Yoda's like, oh my god, what's going on there? You can tell that he kind of knew what's going on. I'm sure Mace Windu was just like, didn't think about it because he's up his own arse.
Yeah, but there's all that criticisms of the Jedi, that they're stuck in their ways, they're draconian, that they don't have any leeway. But an equal criticism is that I guess that they basically bend the rules when it's convenient to do so for them.
Yeah, and you know what? They were in a war. Let Anakin get laid. Do you know what I mean? Let him have.
That's
let
right.
him have
all
one.
The rest of them. I never really understood that because it's obviously. I suppose if they're kind of going, if you've got Jedis hooking up, then you're going to have more potential. I mean, it was always sort of implied that the Force was genetic, but I guess in the prequels maybe they were trying to distance them from that a little bit. But it certainly still seems like that. But if you have Jedis hooking up with Jedis, you're going to have all sorts of crazy, Force children that you can't control and things potentially. Or I don't really know if it's ever been addressed. I never looked that deep into the lore, I guess.
I feel like the likelihood has increased, but I don't know if it's necessarily it will happen. It's probably like just any biology. Like you get some features that your parents get, you might get some features that you might get.
Good singing voice, maybe not a good singing voice, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Likability.
Exactly, yeah. But the thing I think that's most like the Jedi thing, I understand. Obi-Wan knew, obviously, kept it secret. Ahsoka knew 100%. You see it in the Clone Wars. You can tell that she knows. Yoda probably knew. But the thing I'm always surprised by is that, and they never really delve into, like, think about Padme's apartment on Coruscant. There's that scene in Revenge of the Sith where they're both openly on the balcony. She's wearing the necklace that he gave her. He's got his shirt open. With his lovely little chest showing. There's no media droids out there. There's no photographer, paparazzi droids taking
Yeah,
sneaky
yeah.
shots at the balcony. So they can get a little droid to put to kill a centipede for your window, but you can't get a sneaky snap. The press can't get a sneaky snap of Jedi
Arguably the
Knight.
two of the most famous people in the galaxy.
Yeah, famous Jedi Knight and senator hooking up? Question mark. Is she pregnant? Like, what? Nobody.
What's he doing here?
Yeah.
Jedi. I'm just thinking about what headline the Sun would have, like
Oh
Jedi
God.
Knights in or something like that.
Anakin. Padme. Is he the father of
Next
Padme's
of
baby?
Anakin.
Yeah. I am your father, Anakin Skywalker to be. Yeah, that's all gibberish. Like you'd expect them to have some sort of paparazzi, but there isn't any. Like you see the HoloNet and stuff, but yeah,
Yeah, they don't really. It's never really been explored, has it? Really? I mean, even the concept of celebrity. It seems like the only celebrities are more are people war heroes. Obviously, when Han, takes the Falcon off Rey and Finn, they both recognize the name Han Solo for slightly different reasons. One's the war hero and one's the smuggler, but they don't really talk about who are the Kardashians of the galaxy or the Kanye Wests of the galaxy or all that sort of thing. Who are the famous people? Like, is there other media? Is there? They have in Attack of the Clones. They go into the sports bar and there's the broadcasted sports and things on the walls. You see the pod racing and some weird robot football thing going on. There must be personalities and celebrities and it's never really touched upon, is it? I guess it's.
Well,
yeah.
There's a really good bit in one of my favorite novels, Bloodline, where they announced that everyone finds out that Darth Vader was Leia's dad, and in the book, like you see all these like New Republic fighters and just like people sort of gossiping, like, oh my God, did you hear that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader and that he was Leia's dad, and like what Darth Vader was that famed Jedi Knight. Like it's this cool little like gossipy thing, which is so realistic, and I feel like
they made a movie about it.
Yeah, there's so much to delve into there. Like I feel like that sort of
how information spreads and things like that. Yeah, it's never. I mean, the universe that does it really well, I think, is the Harry Potter universe, where it's sort of like they have their own celebrities and media, and they even have like famous rock bands. Is it the Weird Sisters? Is that right? God, I hope that's correct.
Yeah,
they've got their. It's like a exactly, and the guys from Radiohead. That. It's like a microcosm of society a little bit more that those things are covered. It's obviously smaller, but they have their own. J.K. Rowling does a really good job of sort of having their own. They have all the same things that we kind of do, but on it's sort of slightly different plane. But yeah, Star Wars has never really touched on that. It's all sort of hearsay, and all the heroes are all the people who are involved with the war that's going on. But you'd think that. Because all this bad stuff happens, people need escape, and there would be film stars and movie stars and rock stars and
and I feel like there are these like little jobs and sort of continuity things that I love about the franchise. And like one of my favorite ever things, which I discussed I think before in one of our episodes, was the scene where Obi-Wan jumps out of the window in Attack of the Clones. In one of the later shots, when it's like a panoramic shot of Coruscant of Padme's apartment, you actually see these two droids put a new window pane in.
Oh yeah.
Like I love.
Here we go again. There's always someone smashing windows.
I love that there's a Coruscant-y window service who helps you replace your panes. Oh, here we go, another Jedi jumping out of a window. Better fix it.
There's more of that in Attack of the Clones than probably any other film, because they sort of do go more street level, because there's sort of Dex's Diner and there's the nightclub and there's the, it does touch on those sort of things more than any of the other films, probably by a long way, of the sort of things that are closer to the real world.
Yeah, that and the Clone Wars. Because it has the opportunity to delve into those smaller spaces, and I feel like you do see it in. I feel like you do see it in a lot of the auxiliary material. like the comic books and stuff, because they have the opportunity to dive in there. But contextually, you don't see it in the original films because of obvious reasons. Like Tatooine's really poor. It's owned by the Hutts.
Not much going on. Not much going on in Hoth.
Yeah, Hoth is just boring. And all the main Imperial planets are Imperial. There is a certain tone and a certain routine to them.
It's probably pretty crap Netflix on Imperial planets. It's probably just the Emperor's favorite shows, and it's all the Empire History Channel, and heavily edited episodes of whatever the most popular sitcom is. Yeah, everybody loves Palpatine.
How I Met Your Mother with Darth Vader.
Deborah!
Yeah, I'd love that if Netflix and Star Wars is just all Imperial shows, but they have Everybody Loves Raymond. Like, they're not even edited. It's just the show. It's just the normal show. It's just that's on there for some reason.
For some reason, yeah.
Yeah, just have him on there. Get a Ray Romano Star Wars character. When are we going to get that? Lucasfilm?
It'll happen one day. They didn't Alan Rickman one. I'm sure they could probably do a Ray Romano one at some stage.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah. Oh no! I dropped my lightsaber, Deborah.
That is what I want to see in Star Wars.
Come for the podcast. Stay for the impressions.
Exactly.
I was thinking about try to do a bunch of little sketches on the podcast and stuff that were basically Poe Dameron prank calls, where he prank calls different people in the Star Wars universe. And the only one that I could think of was that he called, like he does with General Hux. So he basically calls up Unkar Plutt. And he keeps asking him for. He's just like, oh hi, he keeps asking him for things that he doesn't have. He's like, oh, I'm looking for an engine for XYT X. And he's like, oh, we don't have that. He goes, yeah. So anyway, how many portions? What would that be in portions? And he basically just asking for all the prices in portions. I don't have one of those. Yeah, but I've only got so many portions. And last week it was this many portions. And how many portions is it going to be this week? It's like, we don't have any of these. I haven't thought it through, basically. But
that's mine.
That's my portion. Okay, I'll hold.
I was absolutely thinking of doing a parody sort of show like that, but it's on the back. It's on the back
Star Wars detours.
Yeah, it was less. I was trying to make it less Star Wars detours, more. I don't know if you've heard the show. There's a British radio show called Down the Line, which is
yep.
It's hilarious. I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but it's like it was released as a chat show on Radio 4, which is like in Britain. It's this very sort of, serious radio network, and but they released it as a show, pretending it's a real chat show, but it's just a parody. All the calls are parody calls, and but they're done in a way to make it seem like it's not. And I wanted to do that for Star Wars. Yeah, have like 3PO ring up, and be like, but actually that's wrong. Like,
I think that's a good idea. I would definitely listen to that. We've been going pretty well. I'm running through some good stuff here, but I was kind of, when we spoke before, I was going, sometimes if we feel like we've hit a brick wall, we'll bring up a topic, but I actually purposely want to talk about this topic, so I'm going to bring it up anyway. Is the time that Mark Hamill was on the Muppet Show.
Yeah, that's my favorite episode of the Muppet Show. I remember growing up and just watching it on repeat because it's so.
Was it on It wasn't. It was never on television, British television, when you were growing up. Though, was it? You must have watched it on video or something.
Oh no, yeah. I grew up watching the Muppets, so it was just a natural step up. I remember because watching the Muppets, and then we just got the Muppet Show on DVD, and it was on there, and I just watched it on repeat and repeat and repeat because it's so good. It's so classic. Because
who's your tailor? I love that outfit. Yeah. That's the thing that always stuck with me.
That's actually what my friend and co-host Nikki Kumar from the Imperial Senate Podcast. He went up to met Mark Hamill, and that's what he told him.
Oh, that's great.
which is great. Yeah, it's like, damn it, that's a perfect line.
And he would have got it as well. He forgets
Exactly.
nothing. That man, he's got a steel trap for a.
Yeah, yeah, like that whole episode is so purely. That's what I love about the Muppet Show and Star Wars. I can dive into this as well. It's a perfect mixture of both American and British comedy, like sentimentalities. That's not a word. I made that up. God knows what I was talking about. But
I'm 99% sure that I used to watch the Muppet Show growing up, so I'm not sure when it ran. I think it was late 70s to early 80s, but Australia, we got everything late anyway. So
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw that. I saw a lot of Muppet Show growing up, and I'm 99% sure I saw that episode first run in Australia when it was on. And I remember being really annoyed how mean Luke Skywalker was.
Yeah, to Miss Piggy.
Well, just to everybody, that it's sort of that, because it's Mark Hamill plays himself, and he's sort of jovial. Yeah, that's right. And then Luke Skywalker is kind of a prick.
He is kind of a prick, but everyone prefers the prick to Mark Hamill, who's very keen to show his skill set, especially with the gargler.
I think Mark Hamill was just keen to not be Luke Skywalker, just to actually show how versatile he was as a performer. I think.
Yeah, which has made even more fun the whole show, especially Pigs in Space with actual Star Wars characters.
Pigs in Space.
Like, who's a tailor? I love that outfit.
I had to find out what a tailor was. I didn't know what a tailor. I remember asking. It must have been my parents or somebody what a tailor was, because I just didn't understand what. I knew there was a word that existed called tailor, but I didn't know if tailor was a person or something like that. And I was like, I know a tailor is somebody who makes clothes. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
There you go, you learned something.
I know, I did learn something from the Muppet Show.
That and evil Dirk Nader. The world would never know.
Gonzo? It was Gonzo, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is that's what was even more funny is. He's like, the world will never know, and he's like turns his side profile, and it's clearly Gonzo dressed as Vader
with the nose.
Yeah.
I used to love the stupidest gag. I used to love veterinary hospital in the Muppets, and I always just loved that whenever there was the voiceover, they would all just start looking to the roof to wonder where the voice was coming from. There was sort of that breaking the fourth wall that that they could obviously, it was just playing over the loudspeaker that was narrating their life. That always made me laugh every time.
Yeah, that sort of that classic mixture of humor works so well, and I feel like it's the same with Star Wars, because you've got loads of those crew and loads of those people. They're influenced by the same stuff. Like, you see Rian Johnson all the time. There's so much, Yeah,
he's a big Weird Al Yankovic fan too, which is near to my heart. Because I don't think Ryan is actually that much older than me. I think he might only be sort of 3 or 4. I think he's in his early 40s, and I'm sort of in my late 30s. So, we grew up on the same thing. So when he starts sort of dropping science about Weird Al and stuff, I'm just like, there's a guy who just, he was just a kid who was into the same stuff that I was in that generation and things, and isn't afraid to sort of let it fly. And he's, for all the crap that he had to endure, it's like he's one of us. He's not some sort of
villain.
No, it's I don't want to sort of go down the hole of sort of discussing all the things but it's that the documentaries and all the interviews and all the stuff that you see with him, he's so excited by it and happy to do it, and really wants to do an amazing thing and but also shake it up and make it exciting, because he cares so much. And even if you don't like what he does, you can't fault him for his enthusiasm and he's and wanting to do well and have that love for it. It just annoys me when people think that he's got some sort of vendetta, or it just doesn't exist. It's just maddening.
It is crazy. It's like, if you don't like the film, it's fine, but he does care about those characters. He does care about Luke Skywalker. There was a story to tell that he wanted to tell. Mark Hamill didn't agree with it first, and then later on he did. That's simple as.
Okay, Charlie. Well, you know what? We could talk Muppets all day, And what I might do is I will actually watch the episode again and get refreshed, and maybe we'll pick up where we left off last time. We're having a few little audio blips anyway, so we can. So if it does sound different, we haven't just driven through a tunnel or something. It's just the magic of talking on the internet. These things happen. But thanks so much for coming on. Give us some of your sweet plugs. Plug away all your projects, all your things. I know you've got a whole bunch of them.
Well, obviously, my main project is the Imperial Senate Podcast, which you can find on iTunes and SoundCloud. We do episodes every week, and we've also got a Patreon, which we're really pushing because we've got a really great show on there. Our host, Claire, there's a show called Daybank Discussions, where she talks to different people about their favourite characters, different background characters, and she dives into that, so it's really cool. And you only have to download. It's $4 a month, so it's not too much. It's nothing.
It's not even £2 or £2.50, something, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So that gives you access to all the Patreon episodes we're doing. We're also doing a not safe for work sort of episode every now and then. So we'll talk about the things that you're embarrassed to talk about with Star Wars. You name
Imperial
it.
Senate Nights, is that what it's called? Imperial Senate Up Late?
After Dark, yeah, along those lines. And hopefully soon we'll be doing some interesting film commentaries with some famous guests, so look forward to that.
That's some sweet sizzle.
Yeah,
sweet sizzle, mate.
You can also follow me on Twitter at CMWASHBY. On Instagram, I'm Charlie Ashby, or Charlie MW Ashby. And I think that's basically it. I've also got a Twin Peaks podcast called How's Annie, which will be back soon. So if you're into that, make sure to listen to that on iTunes.
You've easily got the most amount of stuff to plug than most of the people I've had on here. Most of the people I have don't even have Twitter accounts, or they just use them to complain to companies. So you will actually get some good content if you follow Charlie. He's very great on social media, and he is an all-round good dude. Best of luck on Saturday with England versus Sweden. I'll be up watching it. I hope they go all the way, and we'll get you on again soon.
Yeah, I can't even talk. I'd love to. I'm so excited. I'd love to come back that I can't even talk properly. That's how excited I am. Thank you so much for having me on. This show is great, and you're a good buddy. Keep listening.
High praise. Thanks, mate. Speak to you soon.
Speak soon. See ya.
Bye.